What's up, everyone? I just finished my first year of college, so I wanted to give you some insight into the differences between writing academically in high school versus college. Regardless of what your major is, you'll be required to do readings and write. So I wanted to give you a heads up so that you can be better prepared when you enter college. First off, let's look at the differences between the types of writing you'll be doing in high school and college. So in high school, you'll be used to writing literary analysis papers, 5-paragraph essays, answers to short response questions, and maybe the occasional research paper here and there. But college is a lot different. If you're not an English major, there is a high chance that you won't be writing many literary analysis papers, and a lot of professors don't like the 5-paragraph essay format because they find it to be a little bit too formulaic. So what you'll be writing instead is possibly 1 to 3 page reading response and reflection papers. So these papers require you to take lecture notes, reading material, and your own opinions to synthesize a cohesive reflection and send that as your response. These reflections often happen weekly or bi-weekly depending on your classes, but they are really common throughout many classes regardless of what the subject is. And when it comes to research papers, in high school, you're usually used to writing research papers that are less than 10 pages long, but you'll be required to write research papers that are quite a bit longer in college. Actually, I have a video on how to write a research paper, and in there, I have an excerpt of a 15 to 17 page research paper that I wrote for one of my college classes, so you can check that out in the description box below. And in high school, when you write papers, most of the time it will just be text all the way through, but in college it's a lot more common to include graphs, images, charts, and other materials embedded within the text of your research papers. When it comes to style, it's really common in high school to write all of your papers in MLA style, since this is really standard for English papers or literary analysis essays. But when it comes to college, it's actually a lot more common to use different styles, including APA and Chicago styles, which are a little bit more common for research style papers and other academic settings. So you'll just have to adjust to this new style, possibly using online resources such as Purdue OWL, which I really love. I'll include the link to that down below so you can learn how to cite sources in these new styles. But what's really important to know is that the way you'll be citing your sources and including outside evidence may be a little different. So in MLA style, it's common to include parenthetical citations with the author's last name and a page number. But in college, you'll often be required to either do parenthetical citations or possibly footnotes, where you'll add a little number next to each sentence and include the citation either in the footer of your page or at a page at the end of your paper. Also, your bibliographies or works cited pages might look a little bit different. And in high school, something that's drilled into you is to never use the word I at all in any of your papers. And this is a really good lesson to learn early on, but when you come to college, you might find that professors are actually a little bit more lax about this rule, especially if you are writing reflective papers. So the word I or other personal pronouns are actually allowed in certain settings, but you should always make sure to ask your professor beforehand in order to see if that's acceptable. And something I really like to do is even send my thesis beforehand to my professor, either by email or talk to them about it in office hours, so that I can get it approved before I actually start writing my paper. And I even was able to do this when I began remote learning, so it's always a good idea to establish that rapport with your professor early on so that you can ensure that your final product is as perfect as can be. Let's talk about the introductory and concluding parts of your papers. In high school, it's really common to have a hook in your introduction that is supposed to grab the reader's attention. But in college, you are often not required to have any sort of hook whatsoever. So you can just plunge right into the background information that is needed for the reader to understand your topic clearly. And in high school, it's really common to simply summarize your paper or reiterate your thesis in your concluding paragraph. But in college, your conclusion is not supposed to be a summary of your paper at all. Instead, it should offer a new insight or some food for thought for the reader to take away with them once they're done reading your paper. So summary is not needed at all. Also, it's a lot more common to have an abstract in your papers in college. So the abstract will be a really short, brief summary of the overall findings of your research paper and an introduction to the discussion of what you'll be talking about in your paper. In high school, you'll often be writing 3-point thesis statements, or perhaps an advanced literary thesis if you've seen my past videos. But in college, it's often not recommended to write a 3-point thesis because this thesis sets you up for a 5-paragraph essay, but as mentioned before, 5-paragraph essays aren't that common in college. So what you'll do instead is write a thesis that just lays out the foundation of your argument for the paper in one or more sentences. And that's another difference between high school and college writing. In high school, it's really common to have a thesis statement that's just one sentence long. But in college, you'll often have thesis statements that are 3 sentences long, or perhaps even a little bit more. But that is also usually reserved for longer research papers, such as the one that I showed in my research paper video. And when thesis statements are written, it's also really important to have clear topic sentences that lay out the foundation for each of your paragraphs. So in high school, we often kind of ignore topic sentences and don't really learn how to write them super clearly. But in college, it's important that your topic sentences serve as mini thesis statements so that they really clearly state what your paragraph is going to be about and what types of evidence you're going to include in that paragraph. I hope you all found this video helpful. Comment down below with anything you are curious about when it comes to college writing versus high school writing. And if you did like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap the bell to receive notifications whenever I make a new video. I'll see you next time.